Good morning, children. Today we will be dealing with the next element, pressure. So, the atmosphere you had already learned in the beginning of this chapter itself. What is atmosphere? Atmosphere means it's a blanket of air which protect us, isn't it? Different layers of atmosphere also you had learned. So, the atmosphere, it extends up to a height of 1600 kilometers. 1600 kilometers. It extends from the earth up to a height of 1600 kilometers, and this vast area which you call as atmosphere, it is filled with air, and this air has weight. We cannot feel air, but you can experience the presence of air, and air has weight. The weight of air column over a square kilometer, that means the weight of air over a square kilometer is 1 kilogram, and because of this weight it goes on exerting a pressure onto the earth's surface which you call as atmospheric pressure. So, what is atmospheric pressure? Atmospheric pressure is the pressure exerted by the air onto the surface of the earth. This is called as atmospheric pressure, and I already told we do not feel it, but it is exerted. This air pressure is exerted equally in all the directions, and you have an apparatus, you have an instrument to measure air pressure which you call as barometer. So, barometer is an instrument that is used to measure atmospheric pressure. I already told this atmospheric pressure is not same everywhere. As temperature itself, atmospheric pressure is not same everywhere. It depends upon a number of factors like temperature and altitude. So, factors determining the pressure of a place is temperature and altitude. Temperature already you have learned, altitude means it is height. Suppose I am standing in an open air and see I have pressure being exerted from all the directions. I told, isn't it? I cannot see this air or this pressure being exerted over to me from all these directions, and this you can clearly understand as we are moving on towards the moon, because there is no air in the moon, and you have seen astronauts going to moon wearing special suits. They wear special protective suits when they are traveling on to the moon, and these suits are being filled with air because there is no air in the moon. So, why do the astronauts wear such type of special suits or protective suits? This is mainly because the inside pressure that is exerted by the body of the astronaut would make there is no other force because there is no presence of air, no pressure is being exerted. Thereby what happens is that there is a tendency for the bladders or the blood vessels to break up, and it may result in bleeding. So, in order to avoid this, in order to compromise this, astronauts wear special suits which are filled with air. Now, as we move higher up, the pressure goes on decreasing. You have to learn it. As you move higher up, as you go higher up, the pressure goes on decreasing, and you call it as vertical distribution of pressure. And this pressure is maximum at the sea level. The maximum pressure is being attained at the sea level. Now, normally the pressure of air at sea level is 76 centimeter. And it decreases. This air pressure goes on decreasing at a rate of 1 centimeter for every 110 degrees of ascent. For every 110 degrees of ascent, there is a rate of decrease in 1 centimeter of pressure. Now, you studied what is vertical distribution of power. Vertical distribution of pressure means as we go higher up, the pressure goes on decreasing. Now, there is horizontal distribution of pressure also. So, if you need to understand what is horizontal distribution of pressure, you have to first understand the air movement. What happens when temperature increases? What happens when the temperature of a place rises? When temperature increases or when temperature rises, air begins to expand. It becomes lighter and air begins to expand. That means air becomes less denser, it begins to expand. So when the temperature is high, pressure is less. It's just opposite. Remember that when temperature is high, pressure is less. So when air gets heated up, it becomes lighter, it begins to expand, it becomes less denser, it begins to rise upwards, and thereby the pressure is decreased. So these areas will be experiencing low pressure, and these areas will be cloudy, foggy, misty, etc., which you can experience in an area of low pressure. Now what happens when the temperature decreases? What happens when temperature falls? When temperature falls, air becomes, compared to a rise in temperature, air becomes much more denser and the pressure increases and the temperature begins to fall. So when temperature falls, an area of high pressure is being created, and these areas you can see the sky being very clear. It becomes denser, so it begins to sink downwards, and you can see a clear sky in these areas where the temperature is less. Now pressure at the equator is usually low. I already told, when temperature increases, pressure decreases. You had already learned in the equatorial regions or places near the equator, the rays of the sun is direct and thereby the temperature is high. So here when temperature is high, pressure will be less. So near to the equator, temperature is high, so pressure is low. Now around the poles, temperature is less, so the pressure is high, and maximum pressure or maximum air pressure you can experience at the sea level. Now the pressure also decreases with altitude, height. As a result of increase in height, the pressure goes on decreasing. So at greater height, air becomes thinner and it is less denser. You have already learned that. Now there is a close relationship between temperature and pressure. This temperature as well as pressure is not uniform everywhere. Some parts you can experience high pressure, in some areas you can experience low pressure. So always remember, air always move from high pressure areas to low pressure areas. Air moves from high pressure areas to low pressure areas. Hope you understood what is pressure or how pressure affects the climatic conditions. Thank you.